So Sam, you've been described as someone that takes ideas and you actually turn them into reality, which I think is pretty cool. And so for people that are meeting you for the very first time, what's the journey that led you to become so deeply rooted in entrepreneurship and innovation?
So I never thought I'd be here. It's funny, man. On the day we're recording this, I came from a couple of meetings. That's why I got the tie on. But the president of the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank was in town today. So I was in a couple of meetings that he was in. And he never thought he'd be running a Federal Reserve Bank, which is like, 12 people do it, 10 people do it? I don't know. And I'm sort of similar. To hear that, I'm like, yep, I know what you're talking about, man. Because I did not study business in college. I studied history. I was like, I took macroeconomics. I got a C-. I was like, that's fine. I just got the requirement out of the way. I'm never going to do anything with business. My dad was in healthcare and was a healthcare entrepreneur. I just didn't think I was going to do it. Thought I might teach or work at a nonprofit, do something kind of benevolent. And that was it. And was on that path, graduated college, came back to Nashville, needed a job. I worked in hotel management for 2 years, which in retrospect was awesome. Was where I got my business education. Worked for Marriott Hotels, largest hotel chain in the world. Got leadership training, learned how to read a P&L, hire, fire, sales, customer service, everything. And but then again, wanted to work somewhere where I felt like I was making a difference. Went to a nonprofit, and it was there down the hall, a guy named Steven. We were talking one day about, this is way back in 2006, about how young people who we were working with at this charity, man, they were online. They were on their phones. They were on the internet. They were using these new tools like YouTube and blogging and what would become social media. How could we, as a charity, use those tools to reach more young people to spread the cause? And we were chatting, and the answer was, well, let's build a website. In other words, let's start a business. And once I got that taste of, here's a thing we want that we wish existed, it doesn't exist, let's create it. I knew, I was like, look, this is what I'm gonna do the rest of my life. I not run this single company, but take ideas, do something with them, turn them into reality, maybe help other people do that. So I ended up starting 4 different businesses throughout my time before coming into my current role, running the Entrepreneur Center, which is teaching people to do that same thing.
That's awesome. I want to focus in on the first, one of the first things you said. The history part of it was interesting. I do think that they should teach more history in business class. That way people aren't repeating those mistakes. But the hospitality side, I think there's a lot of value in you starting over in hospitality. What are some of the lessons that you learned from that?
Man, it's funny because again, several people have said something to the effect of, life can only be lived forwards but understood backwards. Or we all like to think like, oh, here's my resume. Look, it all makes sense. But it's like, no, dude, in the middle of it didn't make sense at all. Hotel management for me, it was the only job I was qualified for. So in college, my part-time job was I connected microphones like we're using here at college, because they would have corporate meetings or people get married, chapel services, things like that. And that was my job. So I knew how to do that. And the Marriott Hotel by the airport in Nashville was hiring for an audio visual technician, I think it was. It paid $13 an hour. I was like, dude, I'm gonna be so rich. Because I made almost like half that in college. And that was the job. And so it was thinking, going and connecting microphones, but the way that most hotels, but especially Marriott, was like, you're front lines. You're talking with customers every day. These business customers were paying a lot of money. The meeting business of hotels is very high margin. So it really matters to keep those customers happy. And so understanding that, now that I think is part of, going back further, how I grew up in a family that was very warm and welcoming, whether it was welcoming people into our home to stay with us or at the holidays. Again, lots of families do that, but just that understanding. And a lot of that was probably our faith upbringing. My parents and I grew up very religious, very Christian. And so part of that hospitality, that kindness, that loving kind of nature was also part of it, making other people feel comfortable, feel warm. And so doing that in a corporate setting was something new. I'd stayed at hotels before, of course.
Yeah.
But thinking about it, I remember our director of operations talking about, someone staying at this hotel today, they've maybe saved up for a whole year, a whole decade to stay here. And what experience would we want them to have? And that was part of the Marriott's philosophy. The family who started that was taking care of the employees, will take care of your customers will come back. And several businesses since then have employed something. Southwest for a long time used that. And so just that idea of making people feel welcome and seeing there's an entire business around that is something pretty unique, and it was pretty fun to be a part of.
You know, I don't know why I was thinking about this yesterday, but I was thinking about Pizza Hut.
Okay.
And Pizza Hut I used to love going as a kid, right? You would go, you'd have the red lights above the booth, you'd go and sit in there with the family, the smells of it. And then it feels like sort of corporate America took over Pizza Hut.
Sure.
And now it's this very just watered down, very streamlined marketing where you can't go in there and sit anymore. You have you order your pizza for delivery, or you pick it up. And it really made me, I was thinking like, okay, what makes like the local pizza place better than just take the pizza part of it out, right?
Yep.
Because I used to love Pizza, right? But you compare the local place to like Pizza, like what's the difference? And it's like that place to go and hang out with your family. And that's what's really interesting about, you were talking about the Marriott. And I feel like that's what we've lost in businesses, many businesses. You've lost that part of it where it's like the human part of it. They've just kind of stripped down, let's cut down all our costs, let's increase all of our profits. And here's what you ordered, right? And it removes all that human element of it.
Man, okay, dude, we're jumping into it. I love it. I love this. Okay, so yes, you're completely right. Because what do we want? All of us we want to belong somewhere. So part of my other through line through my life, again, looking back, is this phrase: the height of my success is directly related to the depth of my community. So the height of my success directly related to the depth of my community. I didn't realize that to the kind of in the midst of COVID, my business that I was running at the time, my fourth company, was experiencing crazy growth. We were one of the rare companies that grew during the pandemic, but I was exhausted and I was working a lot trying to keep the thing alive. But I wasn't able. You couldn't do this. We could do Zoom. We got great at Zoom, but even that was exhausting. I had also had a long part of my career had been in public speaking, so getting to travel, meet people, hang out, develop relationships, give speeches, all that kind of stuff. And I just couldn't do that. And you couldn't also do like, hey, you want to go meet for coffee later or grab a beer after work? You just couldn't do it for a while. And so that was what dawned on me was, man, the whole reason I've been successful and what I'm missing right now is this connection. And all of us want it. I now give a talk where I really look at the economic viability, the economic benefit of creating community for businesses to do that. And not in a way that's inauthentic, like, hey, we'll call it community. People are lonely. It's true, people are lonely. We can get into some stats if you want. But that's what we enjoyed about these businesses like you're talking about, whether it was a certain era, was we felt like we'd go somewhere, maybe we knew the person behind the cashier, we knew the guy who owned it or who was cooking there. It was a place we could belong, a place where our family could come and like do family stuff every week. So mine, you said Pizza Hut. Mine as a high school student was Mr. Gaddy's, as a pizza joint. Had some like arcade games, but we would go every Sunday after church. Our youth group would go. It was a bunch of guys. You get a buffet for like $6, and we'd go for and
it's a cheap buffet.
Cheap buffet. Again, it's the 90s. Teenage dudes would go and we developed these rituals. Any community does. And ours was called the crust pile. So we had these rules. Rule number one, like Fight Club. Rule number one, do this. Well, one of the rules is you can't eat the crust. All the crust go on one tray in the middle of the table, and you build this giant pyramid.
Oh, wow.
But it was just that idea. And then, of course, Mr. Gaddy's is gone. It's consumed by who knows whatever kind of conglomerate. Because the idea, the product they thought they were delivering was not community or a sense of place. The product they thought was, cheap pizza. So what's the cheapest sauce we can get? How do we cook it quickly with the fewest amount of employees, spend the least amount on advertising? Because yes, you're right. It just became this play. And so many businesses have done that, whether it's restaurants, hotels, stores, retail. They just think that in order to compete and stay alive, and it becomes a race to the bottom. The worst part about a race to the bottom is if you win, then you're on the bottom.